I remember the day after that fire, turning round to lads, that's the end of this place, that'll finish us. Oh no, they'll rebuild it. That's what lads were hoping for. I thought that's not going to happen, they're not going to waste the money.
There was a big fire that happened there, and shortly afterwards they announced that it was going to shut down after 50 years of generation. And then shortly after that it was announced that they were going to actually demolish the cooling towers. And I thought it would be really interesting to mark that event with a piece of theatre.
It stood in that state for a long time. I thought, they're not doing anything. If they'd have wanted that back generating, they'd have started by now.
And I'm building this play out of the experiences of people and the stories that they've told me, in the words that they've given to me in interviews.
When they announced closure, you should have seen shock on everybody's face.
We're working towards a public reading at the Theatre Royal Wakefield. That will come up as soon as theatres open and the pandemic allows us to do some live performance, which will be a great relief to everybody. In July 2021 we did the reading online.
Because you get sent out to find a valve in all that mass of pipework, and it were a very daunting task. And it were worse when I came out of my time, out of my apprenticeship, you know. And it were, right, it's just you now.
And at that point the research and development project ended. So then I had a play which people were confident in. Well, we were still in the throes of the pandemic, and theatres were still in a very kind of precarious state in trying to get back to working. So Theatre Royal Wakefield, who'd supported us through the research and development phase, weren't in a position, understandably, to make a commitment to produce the play at that point, or even find the money to produce it. Rather fortuitously, I was able to team up with an old colleague of mine, David Dolan Martin, and he agreed to help me take the project onto the next stage if we could. It was at the moment that James Brining at Leeds Playhouse got interested in the script I'd sent it to him, that things started to begin to pick up. Other venues began to be tentatively interested in putting on the show if we could get the money to do a production. And there was sufficient momentum then at that point to go back to Theatre Royal Wakefield and say, well, you know, we've got other interest. Would you be interested in coming back in on the project as the main producer? And the momentum was enough for them to be able to say yes at that point. Things had moved on. We were now at the beginning of 2022. Effectively, we put the team back together, the team that had originally taken the project through the research and development process in the first place.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. We've had loads of people coming, lots of people who worked in the power station themselves and in the gasworks. It was great at Leeds Playhouse. I was just sat waiting to go in, and I spoke to a guy who'd worked at the power station for 20 years, and he was telling me about how amazing it felt to have his story on stage. He was telling me all about the power station and what it was like to work there, and it just felt like it rang true with the play, which was great.
The experience was fabulous. I like the inclusion of the glassworks and the Warwick estate and you know the history of the place. That was fabulous. The power station part of it I thought was superb. It captured it perfectly. Very emotional for me. I'm going to recommend it to all my friends. I know a lot are going already. They're all booked. They're struggling to get in because it's so well sold out.
We used to celebrate New Year, because we used to go out at New Year, and my husband and I, every New Year, no matter who came to your door, you just give them something to eat and you'd go off and visit friends.
So there are a number of theatrical elements that we've added. Some of those have been Tessa's ideas, some of them were integral to the script in the first place.
There was a bit we were looking at with the three men in the play, and at first when I was reading it, it felt like they were really individual stories and that they were telling the audience. But then as we started working on it, we started finding that actually it was a really special moment in the play where the men were kind of sharing their stories of having worked in these big industries, and actually it felt like by having them listen It's such a small little change, but it just shifted the whole thing and made me want to tune in even more into those stories.
We look back on some of the things we did and it was stupid. So much stuff we did were wrong. You'll hear it all the time. Health and safety's got too daft, but things needed to change.
It was always the intention that we would do a mix of venues, from established theatres to community venues, where people could get to see the show on their doorstep with greater sort of access and also affordability, and we'll get a different kind of reaction, I'm sure.
I think the subject matter, something that's local, it's got a particular poignancy, I guess, for us. I was very upset about that, the cooling towers coming down. For me, even if you're not using them, and I think you should be, by the way, but if you're not, they are part of the landscape around here.
It's an amazing way of actually portraying it, because you are actually telling their stories, but not just on paper, not on video, not on audio, but it's real life people telling those stories, and it makes such a difference.
It's really nice hearing it from their perspective, because I've sort of seen it from an outsider, and yes, it's deeply moving stuff.
Really clever, and it's honest and genuine.
Yeah, we were just saying it's a metaphor for everything else that's going on generally, our industry's changing and closing, and what's happening to people's lives.
We're at the point where we brought the play home to where it all started, really. We're in Nottingham Town Hall. I think we've got a packed audience tonight, so people are obviously excited to see their experiences spoken back to them. And we're here wondering what's going to happen.
I mean, I've never known a show go to so many different places and sell out in so many different places, so it's amazing that people are really connecting to it and feeling drawn to this story. And yeah, I guess it just shows how few things there are out there like this. Yeah, that just tells like local stories.
Because my friend went to see it at South Kirby last week and she said it was hilarious, and she mentioned one or two things and they said don't spoil it for us.
When we come up down from Scotland, that'd be the first we'd know we were nearly home. When we'd see the pillory, the kids would be watching, oh there's the pillar, we're nearly home.
On the boiler repairs I worked, but if you go back further, my father worked on when they rebuilt the cooling towers, and after the three that fell down, my grandfather, he worked there even earlier, yeah. So my family has been associated with it for that long, really, yeah. So yeah, a big part. Yeah.
As an actor, you've kind of got a sense of responsibility to those characters, to feel like you want to do them justice. And I think hopefully we've done that, and I know Garry's done that with the script. For me, what I take from this is that when you come together as a community, you can cope with most things.
It's quite emotional. Really sort of brought back a lot of memories, but also like just being in the present, just how it feels now. So yeah, it's well worth coming. Just absolutely brilliant. Loved it.
Thought it was great. Very well. Yeah, enjoyed it.
It's really important that you document and you record people's journey. It's quite challenging and demanding, and for some it'll be a bit uncomfortable because it's time's gone by, but for others it's a reflection of their life and a reflection of the community.